I'm similar to the Thriller in Manila. Honeys call me bigger, the condom filler. Whether it's stiff tongue or stiff dick, Biggie squeeze it to make shit fit. Now check this shit, I got the pack of Rough Riders in the back of the Pathfinder. You know the epilogue by James Todd Smith. I get swift with the lyrical gift. Hit you with the dick, make your kidney shift. Here we go, but I'm not domino. I got the funk flow to make your drawers drop slow. So recognize the dick size in these Coincatch jeans. I wear 13s, know what I mean? I fuck around and hit you with the Hennessy dick. Mess around and go blind, don't get to see shit. The next batter, here to shatter your blatter, it doesn't matter. Skinny or fat or light skinned or black, baby, I drop these. Bonique with my me, screaming I poppy. I love it when they call me Big Pop, but I only smoke blunts if they roll prop. But look, I got ya caught up with the drunk flow. Fuck taekwondo, I told a fofo. For niggas getting mad cause they bitch chose me, a big black motherfucker with G. You see, all I do is separate the game from the truth. Big bang boots from the Bronx to Bolivia, getting physical like Olivia Newt. Tricks up my click dick all day with no trivia. So give me a bankroll and a bag of weed. I'm guaranteed to fuck her till her nose bleed. Even if the new man's a certified Mac, you get that H-Town in ya. You want that old thing back? B-I-double-T-I-E with some new R-U-L-E. Notorious, known for busting in your E-Y-E. Baby, bitches know they love to hate me. How come you come, we're coming back to maybe. How close we came to coming together is crazy. How come you and your sis make similar faces? When y'all coming, y'all be crying like I'm killing y'all bitches. I know there's a bigger picture than the camera rolling. Cause I don't think y'all be knowing how this shit's unfolding. Back shots to the rear, got the Mac unloading. Gotta reload like every so often. Saying I got my swagger back. I'm looking like bitch, my swagger never left. Don't be so hard pressed to be impressed by these new rappers. They actors and the fact is, you want that old thing back. Like Scarface and Bushwick, Willie D, having nightmares of girls killing me. She mad because what we had didn't last. I'm glad because her cousin let me hit the ass. Fuck the past, let's dwell on the 500 SL, the E and J and ginger ale. The way my pockets swell to the rim with Benjamins. Another hunt's in the crib, please send it in. I fuck non-stop, lick my lips a lot. Used to lick the clips a lot, but making clips have to stop. Cause y'all don't know how to act when the tongue go down below. Peep the funk flow, really go. I got the cleanest, meanest penis. You never seen this, stroke of genius. So take off your Tim boots and your bodysuit. I mean the spandex, and hit my man next. Sex get rougher when they come to the nut buster. Pussy crusher, black nasty motherfucker. I don't chase them, I replace them. And if I'm caressing them, I'm undressing them. Fuck what you heard, who's the best in New York? Fulfilling fantasies without that nigga Mr. Raw. Or tattoo, I got you wrapped around my dick. And when I'm done, I got the split.
What's up, everybody? Happy Monday. Happy to see a lot of you here. It's been a while since I've streamed. I was out all last week on a fishing trip, so pretty good. Good to get away. I'm going to talk a lot about a lot of different things. We've had, unfortunately, some unsuccessful kind of macro calls. We've called the consolidation, the further continuation. To be honest with you, I didn't think we'd go all the way to 104. I was expecting a bounce, but not quite that high. I'm going to go over all of that today. So any questions, feel free to post them, but I can guarantee you we'll probably be covering it if it's up there. All right, going to start here with the S&P 500. And real quick, what's up, Colin? Sorry I missed your message. That was in the intro. Starting with the S&P 500. I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. I did not expect this. I did not expect us to literally just V shoot up. I'm happy with it. You know, we put in some buy orders in this little circle. And for those of you who are doubting that, I posted a chart several different times comparing the S&P 500 to the VIX. Almost every single time that the VIX spikes above 40, we see a near bottom in the S&P 500. So if you're wondering when is it a good time to buy, right then and there is a great time to buy. So when the VIX gets over 40 and the S&P drops around 10 to 20%, generally speaking, you're closer to a market bottom. Now, this one literally timed the market bottom. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's just up only from here. We could certainly see the S&P do something like this for a prolonged period of time. If we do go back to lows, I will be looking to buy more. I only put about 35% of what I wanted to buy in stocks at the like the 4.9 to 5K level. So going to be looking at, if the stock market drops again, we will be buying. If we just V upwards, I probably won't buy anymore until we see another decent correction. One of the things I'm doing with my kind of like long-term stock market account is buying when these events occur. They happen every couple years where you have the VIX spike very high, the stock market drop 10 to 20%. Again, excellent buying opportunity. Is it the best long-term strategy? Probably not, but again, I'm putting in a decent chunk of money every single time this happens. And if those lows are retested or we continue to move lower, then I'll continue buying. Just an FYI, the stock market is always, or at least the S&P 500, is always an excellent investment. If the S&P 500 stops existing, the only things that will matter are bullets, fishing hooks, guns, and that's about it. Maybe clean water. So your money means nothing if the S&P goes to zero. Can't quite say that for Bitcoin yet. Although I have a positive outlook on crypto in the future. If Bitcoin went to zero tomorrow, I don't think a lot of the world would really be affected. I still think a lot of the world doesn't even know how crypto works. There's really not a lot of use case for crypto. I mean, there's things we can use crypto for, but we're not seeing like a massive increase in crypto utility yet. And I think we're starting to get there, especially with the advancements in AI, but we're certainly not there to the point where, if Bitcoin or some of these other things like Ethereum went to zero, I still think the world would be perfectly fine. Maybe the stock market would take a minor hit. Obviously, some companies would go bankrupt, but I don't think crypto's in the place right now where it's like dominating the world in anything. Whereas like if Nvidia went to zero, if Nvidia went bankrupt, I do think that would affect some of the macro economy. So let's go back to the S&P, talk about what I think. I mean, obviously, a couple different things, guys. I'm not going to lie, and I said this a couple minutes ago, I didn't expect this to completely V back upwards. I expected more of a range to form and continue upwards, or even put in lower lows. That doesn't mean we can't, and I still think there's a good opportunity that we will continue lower over time. I don't think that this whole tariff thing is over with, and if it is, that's fine, right? We got some buys in. We're looking good. We're making profits. I'm up about 20% overall on my S&P and almost 25% from my NASDAQ buys. Again, for those of you that I saw the huge spike in numbers on the live stream. For those of you that aren't aware, we posted charts related to the S&P and the VIX, and we ended up buying the NASDAQ and the S&P very, very close to that market bottom, which from where I bought, I mean, that's up almost 30%. Pretty unreal. Yeah, I mean, couple options. We could just continue upwards from here. I still think this thing rolls over and at least ranges for a little bit. We're kind of, and at least to me, really the only reason we're pumping right now is because there is a pause in the overall kind of global negotiation of tariffs. I know that the U.S. and China negotiated last night or are trying to. I think the U.S. wants to put tariffs at 30% rather than 140%, which will help. But again, until this negotiation is completely over with, I still think the stock market and crypto market are not going to respond well to the overall turmoil. Let's look at the dollar. So, dollar bounce. Why is the dollar bouncing? Because the tariff negotiation is kind of coming to a close. Who really knows? China and the U.S. are finally talking. So, hold on one second. Okay. China and the U.S. are trying to come to a negotiation, or at least the U.S. is. I haven't looked into it a ton today, so I don't want to overstep my bounds on that. If I'm wrong, please correct me. But for the last several months, the dollar's been dropping and is now bouncing because of the overall chaos in the global macro economy, right? When things are uncertain, everything drops. It doesn't matter if it's gold. It doesn't matter if it's silver, Bitcoin, stocks, the dollar. Everything's going to drop. Markets love certainty, which is why I haven't really used a lot of technical analysis on the dollar, just because, and I'm going to show you this, right? When the tariff negotiations started, the dollar and the S&P dropped. Now that they're starting to even themselves out, especially during the pause, things are bouncing. But what my question is, what happens when more chaos ensues, right? What happens if China and the U.S. don't negotiate an agreement, or if tariffs get even worse than they are? So again, it's not that I'm trying to be bearish and negative. My whole point is markets don't like uncertainty, and we are in a period where uncertainty can fly and things can change literally in a snap of a finger. We've already experienced that with Trump dumping tariffs onto the entire world. So, you know, as much as I would love to say, hey, look, we're bullish, we're in a bull market, I can't quite say that, and I don't want to mislead people. That's kind of my whole goal. Couple things with total. Guys, I know Bitcoin bounced. I know altcoins bounced, and we're going to get to altcoins soon. But as it stands, and again, I know it's a little early to call this, which is why I'm not staying certain. As it stands, we have lower highs, right? Until we create a higher low and then possibly a higher high from that, right? We cannot say that anything has changed. Even with Bitcoin, I know Bitcoin's at 102, is at 104, almost 105 this morning. But listen to me when I say this. We did the exact same thing in 2020 and 2021 before dropping 60 and then 80% in 2022. So again, I'm being cautious. I think buying spot right now with at least Bitcoin is overzealous. I think you're opening yourself up to too much risk. And with altcoins, look, I know altcoins bounced. I know Tau did very well on this bounce. Ethereum, quite well on this bounce. I think Ethereum bounced like 60% from the lows. Oh, actually almost 100% from the lows. So look, if you caught some of that bounce, you're looking good. But here's the issue is, and this is what I was trying to tell Patreons this morning, right? You have a very large drop. You have a very immediate spike upwards. And to me, that looks more like a correction similar to this, where we have that large drop, that quick move upwards that ends up being correction for continuation downwards. And notice where our correction stopped. It stopped right in the confluence of this prior support, which is now resistance. So again, as much as I would love to buy Ethereum and altcoins and make tons of money and buy meme coins and celebrate an alt season, I don't believe that we're there yet. I don't believe that the market is showing, or at least the altcoin market showing strength. Bitcoin's out of the question. I'm not buying any Bitcoin spot. I don't care if Bitcoin goes to 140K. I did well on that investment, and if I miss out on some, I'm okay with that, right? We're up 5% from where I sold. I've barely missed anything. And this brings me back to the 2020, 2021. During that bull market, and for me, I'm going to scratch this. I know we went slightly higher, but for me, the Bitcoin bull market was this. I sold at 52 to 53K, right? I'm not, look, did I miss out on maybe 20% here? from 52 or 53, 55, all the way to 65. Let's see the exact. We'll just say 52. I mean, you missed out on 24%, but in the grand scheme of things, you're absorbing 500%. It's the same case here. Even if we go slightly higher than where we are right now. Let's say we go to 124, right? Okay, in the grand scheme, I know what my average was here. It was in the 18 to 19K area. I sold at 97, high 97, almost 98, almost a 400% return. Okay, and you could make the argument, oh, well, you sold too early. Maybe. But I don't care about missing out on an extra 20% from where I sold, right? Even if we go to 120, you're still looking at a 24% increase from where I sold. Okay, great, and I understand that that's awesome, but my goal is securing profits, and right now, during a period of uncertainty where most of the volatile and speculative assets are not going to do well, which we've clearly seen with altcoins, I'm just not going to take that risk. I'm going to take what I can off the table. And frankly, I'm glad I did, because the only coin that is over where I sold is Tau. The rest of the coins from where I sold are still down about 40 to 50%. So I'm still getting a discount if things change. Moment here. Just making sure that audio and everything is good. Looks good. I fixed the single audio thing. I just wanted to double check. It's always good to see that things are working. So, okay, let's go into some Bitcoin. Actually, let's go. I'll look at Total 2 and Total 3. So we have some issues with Total 2. We're retesting resistance. I'm going to get rid of these fibs. We're retesting resistance. Again, not a positive sign, right? Not only are we retesting resistance, we're putting in lower highs still. Nothing has really changed in the matter of the last 2 weeks. And I know we've had decent bounces. Frankly, the altcoin market desperately needed a bounce anyways. Then you start looking at Total 3, and look, I know we've recovered an area, but you're still looking at lower highs overall. You're still looking at low volume. Again, call me crazy, but I don't think that this bounce changes macro market structure, especially for altcoins, which is, again, why I'm being cautious, or as cautious as I can. And then you start looking at tether dominance, and yes, okay, I don't get the cleanest read from this, but until we break, I'm actually going to remove this. We don't need this giant. I'm going to remove some of this. That way we get some clarity. Until we really break this area or break below this area, we're still in that kind of limbo state. So not in a huge rush. These childish meme coins pumping, the hardest says enough about the, I'm just going to say, stupid level in this market. Yeah, I mean, but they're pumping because, one, they were down like 90%, so they're going to eventually see a bounce. And two, it's easy to pump things with low market cap that bigger institutions can manipulate, or bigger whales can manipulate. So again, I understand that some of these altcoins, guys, there's 50 million altcoins are doing well, but you look at like the main altcoins, you look at Ethereum, you look at things like Link, Tau's an exception, Fetch not doing very well, Solana again not doing the greatest. You start to wonder, okay, I know that there is money to be made on memes, don't get me wrong, but I'm just not going to sort through millions and millions of meme coins and jokes and then get rug pulled on some of them to find that they really aren't worth it in the end anyways. Because it's always like, you might be looking at one meme coin and it doesn't do anything, and then you go on Twitter and it's like, all these meme coins people are talking about have already pumped, so you kind of already missed that train. Let's look at Bitcoin's weekly. Definitely a solid bounce, right? A bounce that, honestly, fully honest here, I did not think that this would happen. Here are my issues, and I know that a lot of people on Twitter have been hypercritical about my macro views, guys. Again, my goal is to protect my capital. My goal is to enter when I see opportunity, and right now I don't see any opportunity. I know that there's going to be people like, oh, well, 10 years from now when Bitcoin's $1 million, okay, that's great, but I'm not going to buy up here when I know in the next 3 to 4 years we're going to see a significant correction. I don't want to say I know, but I have a pretty good feeling that we're going to have a significant correction and I can buy lower. Or let's say we go to 140K and we correct all the way down to like 87, right? That's still a significant correction for me, and that's where I'd look to buy. I'm not going to buy just because there's this, oh, well, 10 years from now, Bitcoin's going to be doing great. TRX, I think Tron is doing well. I can't remember why Tron's doing well, but yeah, it is uncorrelated to the market at the moment. I have seen that, and I know it's got good use case, but again, that's one of 20 to 30 million altcoins that are actually doing good. The rest look like complete shit. Remove this, and let's look at, here are my problems, right? And I'd write them down, but you guys can write them down. I'm feeling a little lazy today. Yes, we're moving up on what? Low volume, and it's even more evident on the daily, right? And I know that there's going to be some people saying, oh, but every single time we pump, we spike. Yes, but the spikes are becoming less. There's less and less. There's less and less demand for Bitcoin at these prices. Plus, you know, I hate to be that guy, but now you're putting in lower lows, right? You're rejecting that resistance, and you're going to reject it the first time anyways, because why? You're very overbought. We don't quite have divergences yet either, but we do have bearish price action. It is very, very clear, just a tad. It is very, very clear, at least to me, that this is not being supported. And look, it's a nice bounce. You know, it's a bounce that I wish I would have taken more part of, but I'm not going to take risks when I know that, or when my system, like 8 out of 10 times, when I see this happen, right, it's a no buy for me. And that's just me. If your system says to buy, great. There's millions and millions of trading systems. Everyone has their own opinions. But for me, 8 out of 10 times, this is never a longer term opportunity. Is it short term? Yes. And for a matter of fact, we were calling for a bounce upon the short term system. Did I think we go to 104, 105? No. But, you know, at this point, spot wise, I'm not interested. Macro wise, I'm not interested. And that's kind of what I'm covering today. Let's see what else is on the daily here. Did we hit our 21? Oh, we hit our 9. Okay, so the 9 daily was hit. I still think there's a good chance we go down to the 21 at some point. My only, not really change, but your 4 hours is significantly oversold. That's kind of my only caveat, is like this, at some point this has to recover somewhat to continue lower. We can't just, you know, I guess we could continue nuking, but we'll see what happens if we get there. And even the 1 hour is pretty oversold. So I would expect like a short term, like intraday today, right? Maybe do something like this, get that other high, create a bearish divergence, and then start to drop a little bit more. Definitely think we have a repeat of when Bitcoin hit 69K. That's kind of what I'm thinking. And shout out to my video guy, the director. He said that from the start, and I wasn't like discrediting him. I was just like, I don't know if that's going to happen. Maybe it does. But it seems like that's happening, and I'll show you. This is what he originally said, right? Something like this. And then we continue lower, similar to the 21 to 22. I know this is like the half of this. Problem is like some of this is 2020. So that whole 2021 to 2022 kind of bull market top where we had that double top, we wonder if it's going to do the same thing. And again, if it does, I still think selling longer term spot in this position, especially knowing that, look, when I called to buy spot, it was at 17,500. I believe my average is around 18 to 19K. I mean, you're still looking at 422. I mean, you're still, even right here, you're looking at almost a 500% return. That's excellent, right? The idea that Bitcoin's going to give you 100x anymore is just not going to happen. Right, let's talk about alts before we close out today's analysis. So, Bitcoin dominance dropping a decent bit. Good for altcoins, not great, because this is still, I mean, grand scheme of things, guys, this is still very, very bullish. We're getting that correction we probably needed with stock being overbought, with RSI showing those divergences there, with volume going down a little bit, getting a little bit of a nice reset. Plus, on top of that, you look at some of these altcoins, like look at Ethereum. Ethereum was down 70% before a bounce, before we saw any sort of significant I guess bounce is the right term. I don't want to say uptrend, maybe on a lower time frame uptrend, but we've seen some significant downside from Ethereum. It was time for this to bounce. You look at things like Link. I believe Link went down 70% before a bounce. I guess we had a little bounce in here, but almost 70% before bouncing from support. Tau had a nice bounce. Tau's an exception. I mean, Fetch was down almost 90% before bouncing. I mean, I could go through thousands and thousands of altcoins and show you guys every single little thing. My whole point is the market needed a bounce. At least the altcoin market needed a bounce, and it got one. Bitcoin dominance was overextended. We got a nice little, 3% drop. We saw a decent bounce in altcoins, but I don't think that we're going to start the next alt season and continue higher from here. Things can change, but at the moment, things haven't changed. You look at Ethereum to Bitcoin, and again, with the altcoin market needing that bounce, look how oversold we were, right? It was time for a bounce. I don't believe that a narrative has changed, or at least like alt season has started. And again, because the market does everything for a reason, right? Why did we bounce? Are we bouncing because the market's switching from a overly bearish narrative to a now bullish alt season? Probably not. Why is it bouncing? And it's bouncing to me because everything was overextended to the sell side, and you can't just move straight down the entire time. You're going to see bounces along the way. Similar to, look at this. In this uptrend, look how many times we had pullbacks, right? Plenty of times to have pullbacks, but ultimately trend was up. So now you're starting that downtrend, and I still kind of firmly believe that this is going to come back down, or at least range for a little while before we start to see more upside. And that coincides with Bitcoin dominance. Bitcoin dominance has not put in any sort of reversal or shown any sort of bullish weakness. I actually think Bitcoin dominance is relatively strong. And again, you're not going to move just straight upwards. Look how many pullbacks we've had along the way, especially significant pullbacks. And just my last kind of point here. I know that there's a lot of excitement right now in the market. I know that there's a lot of overly confident people in the market. Guys, if you're in Bitcoin and you bought at 70K, take your, or 80K, high 70s, take your profits, right? You are in a, and this isn't like a demand to take profits. Look, everyone has their own conviction, but you're in a speculative asset in a uncertain time. And look, no time is ever certain, but it's very clear that this period is very chaotic with what is going on global, with global trade, especially. So we know how speculative assets often react during those periods, and they definitely see more downside than something like the S&P 500 or the NASDAQ. So look, it's okay to take profits. If you're up 20, 30, 40% right now, personally, I just take some profits, take some off the table. That doesn't mean take everything, but, reward yourself a little bit. And look, if we break out, you can always, break out, retest. You can always add back on that retest. And if it doesn't work out, then you sell, whatever, confirm the rest, and move forward from there. What I'd hate to see people do, and personally, this is what I think is going to happen. I would hate to see everyone get very cocky, call for a breakout of all-time highs, and then we just straight nuke, and anyone holding from this area or this area or even here ends up in a negative, because that's exactly what happened in November of 2021. Almost to the point, like everyone that held through this and bought here, held through it, they got hopeful, they saw all-time high break, and then 3 weeks later we negated everything, and a lot of them capitulated soon after. Just my 2 cents. You don't have to listen. But that's why I'm here, is to at least give you the other side of things, that if this doesn't play out the way you want, and look, we're not in an environment to play it out that way. Inflation's still going up. Interest rates are likely going to go up if these tariffs don't go through the way we want them to. And what do you think happens when all of that happens? Markets go down, right? There's less money being borrowed overall. There's less business being done. There's less growth being done. And I believe we just had our first quarter of negative GDP. If we have another one, technically we're back into a recession. So, again, be cautious. Don't overstep your bounds. Yeah, good to see you. Good to see you too. Where was I on Saturday? Dude, I was hammered on Saturday. I watched the fights with one of my cousins. He came over and he wasn't supposed to come over, and then he did. We just got hammered. So unfortunately, I saw your messages. I felt bad because I was planning to watch it in Discord, and I couldn't even function, dude. I watched like 3 fights and then passed out. All right, guys. I'm going to leave it to that. I hope that kind of answers your questions. I hope that establishes a little bit of narrative and a little bit of backing to what I've been saying for the last several weeks. Be cautious. If you're in profits, take them. Again, if you miss a little bit, that's okay. You can't nail everything. What would suck even more is if you just watched your very solid trade turn into a negative, which, again, I think a lot of these traders over the next few weeks are going to see. With all that said, guys, always remember, be patient, use your